May I invite the second speaker for this session, Dr. Henry Daniell. So we heard his scientific presentation in the morning. Now it is a chance to talk about the journal Plant Biotechnology, where he is the one of the founders. So welcome.
Thank you again, Rajiv. This is a great idea to bring editors and have their perspective. And thanks to Susan for giving a wonderful insight into structural aspects of publishing in high-impact journals. So I'm going to I was afraid when Rajiv asked me that I'm going to follow Nature Biotech and Nature Genetics. I wanted to use few of our examples where Nature Biotech highlighted plant science, and obviously I've chosen examples from some of our work. And from there, I'm going to give you, because most of the audience are authors, so perspective of authors. And what is it that, as the editor-in-chief of Plant Biotech Journal, I've been on both sides, and how that interface and the experience in both accomplish in publishing interesting research. So years ago, actually, PNAS was the #1 journal, maybe even today, if it's based on the number of total citations. And nowadays we have the impact factor, which takes into consideration the number of articles published. So one of the important guidance that I learned from my own experience as author is that it's always good to aim high. So submit your work to the most rigorous peer review process, which is important, which is challenging, but it's well worth it. So submit, and I'll summarize in the next few slides what really makes it go through that process. And again, in the Nature Biotech featured article, it was the first herbicide-resistant gene that showed maternal inheritance. If you follow through that, and this is the first operon that was expressed in chloroplast. So it's always been the impact of the research, and oftentimes journals also rank among the papers that they publish. This was done, I think, several years ago, where they look at papers published in Nature Biotech and then highlight the inventions of a decade and so on. I'm thankful to Nature Biotech that they chose chloroplast biotechnology and projected it, and thankfully we are reaching the finish line in exactly what was projected by Nature Biotech. But all other journals do this, and my focus obviously is plant science, plant physiology, or plant cell, and all these journals have featured that. Even more exciting is that a non-plant journal taking a plant science and considering it as the best publication. In fact, hypertension, when we publish it, received the best paper award in American Heart Association or in the Blood Journal as well. So among all these things, what is it that runs through the principles, the concepts that run through? As an author, I can briefly summarize that. But at the same time, I'm also devoted quite a bit of my time. I'm co-founder of the Plant Biotechnology Journal, and I've been the editor-in-chief in the past 7 years or so. And I should thank Rajiv. He's one of the associate editors. If any of your genome articles get rejected, please, the letter comes from me, but usually the recommendation is from Rajiv. So don't blame me. But a couple of important things, specific. There are 30 different countries' scientists here, that open access, the Plant Biotech Journal is one among the few and definitely only open access journal in plant sciences. And from an author's perspective, you may think that, well, I think I heard a comment that journals are making money by collecting. So actually, it's very hard to run an open access journal. The open access fee really doesn't meet but the advantage of this is that everyone in the world can read those papers. And I'm sure you appreciate that at Plant Biotech Journal. You don't need a subscription, you're able to read it. But who pays for it is ultimately the authors. But one thing I want to make it clear is that no good paper has been rejected from Plant Biotech Journal because of not paying the open access fee. So I want to make it absolutely clear that when you have a good paper, when you cannot pay a good paper, meaning it has gone through the review, obviously not rejected without review, and you can always contact me because we have a pool of money, especially for countries, developing countries and countries like UK, they have funds for open access fee. I know that countries like India do not have that. And so we have a fund for that. So all that you need to do is make an appeal for that. So I welcome your submission because we have terrific editors on genome editing. Half of our editorial board is on the conference topic area. So here are my thoughts. Again, I want to make this brief. So it's like when you buy a property in the US, they say location, location, location. And this is absolutely true for any journal, that novelty. So what is novelty? Maybe I can give you an example. If someone has demonstrated a trait in one crop, obviously for the first time, novel. If it's repeated in multiple crops, it's definitely not novel, right? So novelty overrides everything else. In fact, language and all of that, we have professional editors, we can offer all of those help, but we cannot help with novelty. So novelty originates from the author, and so that is author's responsibility. And the editor's responsibility is to have the crystal ball and say, is this going to be highly cited, is this going to be well read, and so on. So the impact measures that we look at, obviously citations, because journals are ranked by citations in impact factor. Readership is also important for the journal, although number of downloads rarely correlate with citations. Sometimes genome articles get downloaded a lot, but not cited a lot unless it's novel. And more recently, I'm sure you're all familiar with altmetric score. This is a social impact. And most journals now, I've seen this from Nature as well, that rank the papers based on altmetric score. What is this is, after you publish a paper, your university, your news agency needs to do a news article, and that we have websites. PBJ has Twitter followers, more than 20,000 followers. We distribute that information. We just link your news release. And altmetric score is nothing but the number of Twitter, number of news articles, number of TV broadcasts, and so on. So that is important, because if your research doesn't impact the society, it's really only an academic exercise. So altmetric score, we pay attention to that. And already Susan pointed this out about appealing to a broader audience, because if you appeal only to the narrow field of researchers, and if the paper is targeted to experts in the field, to the specialists in the field, it will have a narrow appeal. And this is one of the important criteria. And I had a chance to present our research this morning. So most of the problems are complex. And no individual brain has the power to solve all the complex problems. So one of the things that we encourage is multidisciplinary research. For example, like Plant Biotech Journal, you see a lot of animal studies and human studies. So we have reviewers to review both the plant side and the animal immunology, biochemistry, and so on. And I say this as an author. When I receive a rejection letter, believe me, my own paper has been rejected from Plant Biotech Journal. So it doesn't, but oftentimes the day you receive a rejection letter, you don't feel good about it. But oftentimes, when you look through it, maybe the next day or the day after, and you see what the points made by the reviewers, if you follow through carefully, that definitely enhances the quality of the work. So initial disappointment leads to a much higher quality paper. So please read the reviews. And the general tendency is go down to a lower impact journal, get it submitted. And I have always gone the other way around. That's why I took the example, gave you examples of aiming high.
I think so rather than telling why the papers are rejected, how to submit a paper, to which journal we should submit, I thought we would be discussing how to write a paper. Rajiv also clarified that it is not the high impact paper which is important, it is high quality paper. So the students would like to know how the introduction should be written so that the readership will really become interested, how the discussion should be written, which should be critical, should not be repetitive of the results. This is what I thought we will be discussing. But we are discussing about specific journals rather than talking about how to write. Excuse me for
well, actually, Susan did pretty good job of giving information on how to write. In general, I agree with everything that she has presented. The general concept of writing is very similar. The point that I'm trying to make is content that makes the paper publishable and citable.
right?
So I think this is good that we had the one presentation from Nature Biotech, and I think Henry also did a great job. So this is fine. What we will do, that let's go through all these things and then we can have the general discussion. So
Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. So in summary, what I'm presenting here is that what is important in scientific content, which helps to publish in good journals. Yeah. Thank you.